1 2 1 2. I go by the name of DJ What, and you're now listening to the original Jeek Podcast. Let's go.
Ready to make an entrance, so backward cut. Come on, cut for me.
Oh yeah. Whoa, slow down. Whoa, speed up.
Fresh.
Yeah, making me itch.
What up, Jeeks? My name is RockinMrMagic, and this is the original Jeek Podcast, the best conversation you'll have on sports and geek culture. To start today's show, I want to wish everybody listening a wonderful and happy Women's History Month. It's March. It's my favorite month. And here on TOJP, we love to acknowledge the amazing women in sports and the geek worlds. So to start this episode, we're going to jump into our quick hits section and begin with a quick hit about the Portland Trailblazers. The Portland Trailblazers currently have, count them, not one, not two, not three, but four WNBA alums on their front office staff, which is fantastic, because if anybody knows the women's game is very X to O, and having four women on that front office staff to help scout and review players and guide the Portland Trailblazers organization forward is fantastic. Who are those four? Glad you asked. Let's start with Hall of Famer and former WNBA all-time leading scorer, Tina Thompson, the four-time champ with the Houston Comets. Let's talk about two-time All-Star gold medalist Aja Jones. I think it's Aja Jones. It may be Asia Jones. One of the two. But I'm going to say Aja Jones. And she has been on the Blazers staff since 2021. Also, 10-year vet Sherry Sam, who has been with the organization since last March. And lastly, current Mystics player Avina Westbrook. She has been working as an intern with the Blazers since October 2022. That's one current, three past players with great knowledge and access to the game that are really going to have a major impact on the Trailblazers moving forward. And I think that is awesome. Next quick hit I want to jump into. If you're a Lego fan, as I am, you may browse around Lego Ideas. And that, if you're unfamiliar with Lego Ideas, but you're a Lego fan, Lego Ideas is a place where people post their projects. And if they get enough support or voters, they eventually could become a real Lego product. And what I've been following for a while recently got approved. It reached the required amount of supporters in 10,000. 10,000 supporters for this Lego Godzilla project that I've been watching for 2 years. It got posted in January 2021. And I gotta tell you, the kaiju looks amazing as Lego. And if you're wondering what happens after the 10,000, so when a project reaches 10,000, then it gets put to Lego's review, which will happen starting in May 2023. And what happens through this process essentially is Lego official developers, designers and such, they vet through the process. They go through it. They decide to see if it meets their standards. They'll build concept models, decide essentially in the initial stages of deciding if this is actually going to be a real Lego product. But this is an amazing thing. And if you have your own creations of Lego that you want to see if they could become real products because you had a great idea, go to ideas.lego.com. This is not an official plug, but it's a place I love to look at Lego. Go to ideas.lego.com. Check out what's out there. Post your own creations. Maybe it becomes a real thing. Next quick hit. You may have seen in the news that Funkos are going to be dumped. And not just a few, but 30 million plus worth of Funko Pops are slated to be dumped by the company because they're not selling. They have too much inventory. And not that they're not selling. I shouldn't say that. People are buying Funko Pops, but they overproduced. They've got too much inventory. So much that not only the company's warehouse is full, but they rented out storage containers, and those are full. And now it costs too much to hold on to the product. So they're considering dumping. But my question to you, Jeeks, is do you think that Funko should dump? Should they have a big sale? Or should they sell them or even give them to mom and pop comic book stores or collectible stores that could use the inventory and use a little extra revenue from Funkos? It's an economic question. It's a nerd question. I want to know what y'all think. And the last quick hit is from a tie-in to our main product. It's a tie-in to our main subject today. And that is The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian Season 3 recently started, and you may or may not have noticed, watching the credits, that there's been a change. As you go through the credits, you see the names you're familiar with: Pedro Pascal, Katie Sackhoff, Emily Swallow, Carl Weathers. But there's two names you may have seen that you're not too familiar with, not exactly what you call household names. And that's Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder. Wayne and Crowder, they are the two stunt performers who double as Mando on the show. Now, is Pedro Pascal in the armor sometimes? Yeah. Is it always Pedro's voice? Yeah. But for most of the stunts, fighting, and even a lot of general on-set things, it's Wayne or Crowder under the helmet. So I got to give pickups to Disney and Star Wars, the Lucas art portion of that company, for recognizing and giving these two men who are integral parts of bringing Mando to life, who has been, in my opinion, the hottest Star Wars character in the last several years, giving them the flowers that those two performers deserve, because they are a very big part of why people love Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, aka Mando. They're a huge part of that. So pickups to Disney for doing the right thing, giving these guys their flowers. And that's going to transition me into the main topic for today, the main event, and that is The Mandalorian Season 3, Episodes 1 and 2. So, I'm going to jump right in it. I'm going to start here with more of a spoiler-free rating and review of both episodes, and then we will get into spoilers. So, episode 1. Episode 1 was okay. I enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect. It left me wanting in some areas, but there were aspects that I enjoyed, and there were some things that was just like, I don't know why. Now I'm hoping that there's payoffs. I'm not discarding what happened. Pardon me. I'm not going to throw away what happened in the episode, but it just didn't feel very complete, if that makes sense. So, if I had to give this a rating, which we rate things out of 5, we got 5 on it here, I would give this episode a 3 out of 5. Now, episode 2 was more of a traditional Mandalorian episode. It had a lot of great visuals. It furthered the story, planted some seeds for some other parts later down the line that questions may be answered, maybe some tie-ins to other Star Wars properties. So there's a little intrigue there. I really like that. And we got to see Katie Sackhoff a bit more. And that kind of ties into some of the questions and things that I had from episode 1. I would rate episode 2 of season 3 The Mandalorian. I would give it a 4 out of 5. It was definitely stronger than episode 1. Now, if you haven't watched episodes 1 or 2, I recommend you just stop this episode right now and not skip ahead, because I don't have any of the subjects. Today's topic is The Mandalorian. Like, I did the quick hits earlier. I don't have any big topics to talk about because I've been wanting to talk about The Mandalorian. So if you haven't watched episodes 1 and 2, just pause this episode, go watch episode 1 and episode 2, or just episode 1 and come back for episode 1's thoughts, and then come back for episode 2. But be warned, spoilers from here on out. All right, here we go. So, episode 1 starts off with, I think they were trying to pull off a little okie doke on us. So we see a gathering of Mandalorians, of not specifically just Mandalorians, but the Children of the Watch, the quote-unquote cult within the Mandalorian culture that Mando is a part of, that Din Djarin comes from. These are the people that took care of him, that raised him. So we see the armorer banging out a helmet, and ceremony going on. She presents his helmet to a little boy. Now, personally, my feeling is that they try to pull a little okie doke on us by making you think this is maybe the beginning, a flashback when Din got his helmet for the first time, or his first helmet, and insanity ensues as this young boy is being brought into the Mandalorian culture. He's repeating the creed. A massive turtle, alligator, Bowser type creature rises out of the water and starts going ham on everybody. It's killing Mandalorians. The Mandalorians start shooting, throwing flame at it, which kind of didn't make a lot of sense to me, but they have what weapons they have. They're shooting blasters. The one with the miniguns just with his minigun. They're jetpacking on top of it and setting charges and blasting away, and it explodes. The armor, for some reason, runs in there with her little axes. I don't know what she thought those axes were going to do, but they accomplished absolutely nothing. That was nonsensical. But hey, the armor had to get into the mix. And as it seemed just like Bowser was just, about to just go nuts because nobody had a fire flower or a Tanuki suit lying around to help the Mandalorians, Din Djarin flies through in his starfighter, shoots the monster, comes back for another pass and just blows a massive hole in it. Bowser meat flies all over the place. So I guess everyone's going to be eating Bowser meat for a while. And Din Djarin makes another pulse-pounding entrance into the world of Mandalorian. And then he goes and talks to the armorer and kind of repeats what was spoken in the Book of Boba Fett. If you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, and I don't blame you, it unfortunately was not very good. But the best episodes of the Book of Boba Fett were co-opted by The Mandalorian. So if you're going to watch anything from the Book of Boba Fett, watch the episodes with The Mandalorian in it, because those are the good ones. But within those episodes, it was revealed to the armor, who was kind of the ipso facto leader of the Children of the Watch, that Din had removed his helmet and thus was no longer a Mandalorian in their eyes. And to make amends, to be back in their good graces, he would need to bathe in the waters, the holy waters in the mines of Mandalore, which, if you recall, Mandalore had pretty much been destroyed. I should say destroyed, laid waste. It's supposed to be poisoned. You can't be able to breathe down there, and the cities were trash. Like it's a wreck. The planet's a wreck. So we get a recap conversation from that, and that was, to be perfectly honest, I get it. It's some exposition for people that are maybe brand new to the show, and this is the first episode they watch, but it just felt a little redundant. So they repeat that. Then it's like, okay, cool. If it's safe on Mandalore, I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna become. I'm no longer being apostate. I'm gonna be righteous within the view of Mandalorians, or the Children of the Watch. So Din jumps back into his starfighter and he flies off. Now that he knows what he's going to do, Mando travels back to Navarro, where we've been multiple times throughout the Mandalorian. Last time we were in Navarro, we saw things had gotten better. Grief Karga was running things, and the place was getting cleaned up. Now, when we return to Navarro was popping. It looks completely different. I think Mando even says it a line where, like, I can't believe it's the same place. It looks so different. A former bar is now a school. Grief Karga is now High Magistrate Grief Karga. He's got two little robots carrying a cape behind him, which is kind of a ball to touch. It's some Carl Weathers. It's Apollo Creed. Let my man have his swag. You know what I'm saying? He's got that cape swag, and better to flaunt your cape swag than to have two droids that are always carrying your cape and keeping it off the ground and getting dirty. So that was pretty dope. I dug that. So Mando's on Navarro, and actually, you know what? I think I might have skipped something. I don't remember when this happened. Either after Mando left Navarro or on his way to Navarro, we have a scene in the Starfighter where Mando is telling Grogu how to navigate. He's teaching him. Man, I don't know. I think it was after Navarro. It doesn't matter. This happens, and before or after Navarro, Mando is in the ship with Grogu. Grogu's being Grogu. He's freaking adorable. Grogu's got to be the cutest thing on television. Maybe the cutest thing ever on television. Cuter than the baby from Dinosaurs. Like, Grogu's just a freaking ball of adorableness, and I'm here for it. But Grogu leaves his little pod, kind of climbs through, sitting on Din's lap. And as a parent, there's daddy kid vibes that are just all the cheese, all the huggy feelies are just right there. It's fantastic. And as they're flying through hyperspace, you can tell Mando was asleep, and he's holding Grogu in his lap as he's sleeping. Is just kind of cuddling his baby, and it's super cute. But while this is happening, Grogu looks around and he sees blue, kind of like it looks like they're like in an ocean, and that ocean type experience becomes more apparent because we see space whales, just massive space whales, just going through, traveling at hyperspeed, traveling at light speed, and it's like, huh? Now, if you're not a big Star Wars fan, you're gonna be you probably tilted your head like Scooby Doo and were just like, huh? Because space whales, and it's not something that you would have really known about. This is a major deep cut for Star Wars fans who know what they're talking about, who've watched, read books, watched shows like I think it was Rebels. I think it's Rebels. I don't know, because even as a Star Wars fan, I'm not that hardcore of a Star Wars fan. Those who know me know I'm Star Trek over Star Wars. I go deep into Star Trek lore. I don't go as deep into Star Wars. I enjoy it, but I don't go that deep. So I was one of those people just like, space whales. Okay, this is what we're doing. We're doing space whales. So again, from what I know and heard, I believe this is a Star Wars Rebels reference that may have a tie-in to the Ashoka series that will be coming out on Disney Plus. Because I think there's somebody that she knows or she cares about that got carried off by these space whales. I don't know how that happened. It sounds insane, but I am a fan of Star Trek, and they literally had a movie about going back in time to bring whales forward in time to save Earth. So it doesn't sound that crazy, just a little bit more crazy. So anyway, so that happens before or after Navarro. I don't remember. Maybe before. Anyway, back to Navarro. So they're on Navarro, and again, this place is popping. The place is clean. There ain't no crime really. We get some explanation on to how Marshall Dune, Cara Dune, who was played by I forget her name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The pretty MMA fighter who decided to say some goofy stuff on Twitter. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I forget her name, which is a shame because I usually remember people's names, but I'm getting old and I don't remember her name. I can see her face in my head, but for some reason I'm drawing a complete blank on her real name and not the character's name. And now in my mind I'm just like, what is her name? Like, yeah. Anyway, so it'll come to me as I keep going. So again, Navarro it's fantastic. So we get the explanation onto why she's written off the show. It said that after the capture of Moff Gideon, she was recruited by like Republic, FBI or something like that. So that's why Navarro doesn't have a marshal, but Navarro's doing great. But Grief Karga could use a marshal. He offers Mando the job, which Mando politely declines. It's like, hey man, I'm here on business, bro. So as they are having a discussion walking through the streets of Navarro, they go back to Grief's office and they're just chilling. They're interrupted by a report of pirates in the courtyard. They go investigate, and a pirate named Vane with some other, non-humans. I don't want to call them aliens because to me there are no aliens in Star Wars. Everybody, there's just different people, different types of sentient beings, as using a Star Trek term. There's just different sentient beings. There's, I don't want to call them aliens. So, but there's Vane and more of some other people of Vane's race, species, whatever. And they're at a school that used to be a bar, and they want to drink, and they're just being jerks. And Grief Karga's like, hey, knock it off. Come have a drink with me in my office. No, we want to drink here. Why they are insisting about drinking there, it's more probably just a show of power to try to say, who's boss. It's or just trying to rile up Grief Karga for who knows what reason. Apparently, Vane didn't see Action Jackson or Predator or Rockies 1 through 4, but he talked like he wanted to smoke with Grief Karga, and then Grief Karga pulled his cape back, put his hand over that thing, and Vane pulled, blasted it out, and then Vane's homies acted like they weren't going to do nothing, but then they pulled, and Grief shot one, and Mando, watching the whole thing, shot 3 others. So we had a little mini OK Corral, which again, the Mandalorian is a space western. And if you did not know that by now, which you should if you've been paying half a bit of attention, the Mandalorian is a space western. Just, you should understand that. Everybody's dead but Vane. Karga lets Vane leave. He's like, hey, though, he'll warn people that, pirates aren't welcome here at Navarro anymore. So, the next portion, Mando gets down to business, what he wants. He wants IG-11. If you don't remember, IG-11 is a droid that self-destructed at the end of season 1. It sacrificed itself. And it's the only droid that the Mandalorian trusts. So he wants it back, and they had turned what was left of IG-11 into a statue of him to commemorate its sacrifice for Navarro and his people and how it helped. So Grief Karga acquiesces. He's like, all right, fine. And he says, we'll have to get him fixed, and they'll take him to the Anzellans. Now, if you have seen the, I forget which one of the sequels, there are tiny little guys sentient beings called Anzellans. Babu Frick or Freak, I think it's Babu Freak, is one of those. They're cute. They're also very cute. I have to admit, they're pretty cute, and they talk really high pitched, and but they're like super handy. They can fix a bunch of stuff. So Mando's there, and he crawls into the little space and talks to them as they examine the parts left over of IG-11. Mando doesn't understand them, so outside of this, because they're tiny, they're smaller than Grogu. So outside, Carl Weathers is on his knees, bending over and looking in and translating between Mando and the Anzellans, which is also pretty funny. And they don't lay on that humor super thick. It's just the right amount. It's really entertaining having Carl Weathers like, we no fix it, it's broken, and then you hear Carl Weathers yelling from outside, he said they can't fix it, and even though you can't see Mando's face, you can see the annoyance under the mask as he's like, yeah, okay, I get it. So it's very entertaining. And then there's a bit of an entertaining scene where Grogu thinks the Anzellans are a toy, and he wants to pick them up and squeeze them. And the Anzellans are like, no squeezy, bad baby. And again, the cuteness is just too cute to not smile at, to not enjoy. And Mando's just, being a dad, not being he's not the most of a disciplinarian dad. He's very much like a stepfather, because obviously it's not his child. The child, or Grogu's, older than he is. It's 50, actually 50 plus. 50 at the beginning, or after season 2. So Grogu's older than Mando is, but obviously in his life cycle, he's still a child. And Mando, so Mando's like a stepfather who is doing his best. Seems like he doesn't want to be too disciplinarian, because not his kid, and how do you discipline a kid with force powers on top of it? How do you reprimand that kid? So it's cute and entertaining. So long portion short, the Anzellans say that they can fix IG-11 if they get a certain part. Mando's like, okay, I'll go get the part. They end up trying to reactivate IG-11, but it reverted to its old programming, which is what prompted the Anzellans to be called upon in the first place. I forgot that. They turned IG-11 back on with what they had. It went to its original programming, which was to destroy Grogu. They shot it a bunch of times and finally had to push a bust of Grief Cargo on top of it to stop it. So now we have the next step in that we need to get this part to bring back IG-11 because he wants to use IG-11 to help him scour or pretty much scout Mandalore for him to make sure it's safe. So, the Anzellans remind me of the worms from Men in Black 2, but they're just a lot cuter and they're not like, cringy and creepy and rapey, which the worms were very cringy, creepy, and rapey. And if you don't remember, there are some clips I can show you. Those worms should be arrested. But the face, the mouth, very reminiscent of the worms, but the Anzellans are so much cuter and much safer to leave women alone with. So we move on, and they're flying away from Navarro, the Vane, who was the only one left of the pirates, shows up with 4 or 5 other buddies and ships, and they attack Mando. And we get a pretty cool space dogfight amongst an asteroid field. Mando kills most of them, but Vane is still alive, and he leads, because this time he's being chased by Mando towards a bigger ship, which is captained by Pirate King Gorian Shard, I believe his name was. Something like that. And Gorian Shard looks like Swamp Thing. Yeah. Not as cool as Swamp Thing, but he's got like a long ZZ Top green Swamp Thing beard type thing. He doesn't look like human. He looks like a non-human sentient being, but he looks like Swamp Thing. And that's the best description I can give. Swamp Thing makes, says, hey, I just want to talk. And Mando's like, yeah, okay. And he looks at Grogu, who's like, never trust a pirate, and turns on the super speed that Starfighter has and flies away. Yeah, my only gripe about that scene is just like, yeah, the pirates are not a real threat, but if you bring them back, don't try to act like they're like, these guys clearly aren't a threat. Like, this needs to be a one and done because these guys are not a threat at all, not even a little bit. And from there, the Mandalorian arrives at a planet in the Mandalorian system. He lands at a castle that is occupied by Bo-Katan. And Mando says, hey, I'm here to join you. And Bo-Katan's like, join what? Everybody left me because they didn't come back with the Darksaber. The fleet that was stolen, they're all off being mercenaries, which is a very, like, Bo-Katan, I understand she's disappointed, but she can't be mad because, like, mercenary is what Mandalorians do. Like, you can go back to the Old Republic lore. You can play the Old Republic, the Old Republic games, books from that time that are staged at that time frame, thousands of years before the main Star Wars, time frame of the Skywalker saga. And Mandalorians were mercenaries then. They were raiders. They were mercenaries, especially ones that were apart or away from Mandalore, from the Mandalore, the rule of the Mandalore. I guess that's the best way to say it. They've been mercs forever. So that's completely on brand for Mandalorians who don't have a leader to go off and do their own mercenary thing. Uh, so since Din still has the dark saber, they didn't follow her, and Bo-Katan is essentially a ruler without followers and a planet that no one knows if it's safe to be on. Din's like, well, I'm going to go back to Mandalore, and I'm going to see if it's okay. And if it's okay, I'm going to go to the mines and I'm going to bathe in these waters. And Bo-Katan's like, yeah, cool, bro. Leave me alone. And that's where we end the episode. So again, I rated this episode a 3. And the reasons why I rated it a 3 are the entire episode felt like a really big recap, just catching everybody up. And I understand that happens, but it really felt like, hey, remember this person, this Bo-Katan from season, from that season 2? Yeah, she's back. Oh, you remember Grief Karga? Yeah, he's still here. Hey, do you remember, hey, do you remember that, or not even do you remember, did you remember or did you not see Book of Boba Fett? Because, the first few episodes were really, really boring and slow and not good. And you didn't make it to the cooler, better episodes that had Mando in it. And you don't know about the whole, kicked out of the Mandalorians and becoming an apostate. Oh, here's that recap. It just felt like a big recap and not doing much of moving the story forward. And because of that, the episode felt pretty mid. And that's why I gave it a mid rating, because it felt mid. I didn't fall for the okie doke. I didn't think that we were seeing the beginning of Din getting his helmet. And also, I think they may have tried to okie doke not just that, but maybe okie doking making a helmet for Grogu, because the helmet was small. It didn't look Grogu small, but with those, ears, like you may have to have a slightly bigger helmet to kind of fit his ears and stuff inside. So they may have been trying to fool people that way. But the whole thing just felt like a last time on the Mandalorian. And that left me like feeling like I missed something. So before even like considering reviewing it, I watched episode 1. I think I watched it 3 times, and not because I really enjoyed it. I was like, "Oh, this is such a great episode. I really enjoyed it." It was because I felt, the very first time I watched it, my kids had come home from school, and like I know I got distracted. Somebody stood in front of the television, so I knew I knew I missed something or a little something there. But when I watched it the second time, I realized like I really didn't miss anything. And so I watched it the third time, so I'm like, I still felt like I missed something. But I didn't. It was just primarily a last time on the Mandalorian episode. And so, like I said, I rated 3. That's 3. I rated 3 out of 5 because it just felt a bit lacking. Not a bad episode in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Not a bad episode. Just not a whole lot to it. Kind of just, it's like an oven. It's like you turn an oven on and you're turning on turning a stove on, and you're turning on all the eyes. You've got 4 eyes. You're turning all 4 on because you've got 4 different things. You got the Bo-Katan stuff going on. You've got mixed in with the Bo-Katan needing to wash himself in the mines of Mandalore. You've got what's going on with with Grogu, because obviously Grogu's a factor there, and you've also got Grief Karga and Navarro, and now some pirates in the mix. And maybe if you've got a fancy stove, you've got that a 5th eye for like your kettle, whatever. Then you also have a 5th potential storyline or Easter egg type thing, and these blue whales, these blue space whales. Um, so you've got a lot of things that are just starting to warm up in this episode, and because nothing gets too warm, you kind of feel a little like that's it. At least that's how I felt. I don't know. I would love to know what you all thought of episode 1 of season 3. So again, I ranked it 3 out of 5. Now, episode 2. Episode 2 of season 3, again, I ranked it 4 out of 5. And it's because it's more of a traditional Mandalorian episode. It felt very much a lot more episodic. So Din's quest, let's call it a quest, restarts essentially with him focusing on Mandalore. And we have Din's he needs the help, and obviously IG-11 is not ready for help. So we get a return to you know what? Is it Tatooine? No, I don't think it's Tatooine. I don't know what planet it is. No, wait, it is Tatooine. Yeah, Tatooine. Where his favorite mechanic is. Yeah, that's Tatooine. And I don't know how I'm going off a little bit of down a little bit of rabbit hole here. I don't know about y'all, but I am like, if I don't see Tatooine ever again in Star Wars, I'm good, because I'm kind of sick and tired of Tatooine. Like, why is so much stuff happen on Tatooine? Like, I'm just sick and tired of Tatooine. That's just me. Okay, I'm gonna get focused now. So, Din arrives on Tatooine. We see, I don't know the character's name, but I know Amy Sedaris plays the mechanic, and we see her hustling a Rodian. He's got missing parts. She's like, oh, this is going to take this much time. It costs this much money. And I'm like, this sounds like what the Jawas do. They steal parts and then sell them back to you because you're missing the parts. Well, my gut was right. She was working with Jawa. She had Jawa strip his vehicle, and then after he paid her to do the work, she tells her droids to repaint the parts that were stolen and put on a Mando chip. And they're going to take like a couple months to do it because she quoted a couple months' time. So obviously that really doesn't have much to do with anything, but that's how we get reintroduced to her in season 3. Mando shows up and it's like, yo, what's good? I need a droid. She's like, I need a droid part. She's like, I can't do that, but I can sell you this droid. And it's an R unit. It looks like the R unit that Luke and Uncle Owen bought in A New Hope that fritzed out before they got R2D2. That's honestly what it looks like. And so she convinces Mando to buy it. She cuts him a deal because, it's like telling on itself, like it's scared and it's not, it doesn't have the best circuitry, et cetera, et cetera. It's old. It's been around since the rebellion or whatever. Like, it's not in great shape. But regardless, they make the deal. They put it barely into Mando Starfighter, and away they go to Mandalore. So before now I'm drawing a blank here. Um, I think before they get there, yes, Mando shows. I think Mando shows back up and talks to Bo-Katan. He's like, hey, yo, remember what I said last time I was here? No, I don't remember. I don't. Now it's driving me nuts. I don't remember. These episodes are like blending together in my head. Um, Maybe they okay. Well, that's not important. Whether he does or not, it's not important. What's important is uh, Mando goes to Mandalore and he sends out the the R whatever droid. It doesn't really do much of a job, so Mando himself has to go check it out. Um, Somehow he can seal his helmet, which seems to be open under here. I know he's got like a turtleneck on, but somehow it's he can seal that. And yeah, I don't know. Um, I don't know how physics work in that universe, but he can seal it, so he seals it. He goes, he checks it out, and discovers that um, it's okay. The air is okay. They can travel. So he and Grogu start to explore Mandalore. They end up seeing like a kind of like a cliff type thing where they can see a ruined city. And in this area, um, it gets tough to see. And despite the fact that it's tough to see for them, it's tough to see for us. It again looks like somebody hired the Game of Thrones season 8 directors and lighting people because it's tough to see things. Um, but I get it. It's in a cavernous area for a underground city was at one time. And while they're in there, these oh man, these I guess I want to say they're troglodyte like creatures, but the best description I can say is if you've and it's kind of an obscure reference, but if you've ever seen the Time Machine, like the newer Time Machine movie, like 2000s, ish Time Machine, um, where like people got separated and like the people evolved underneath and people about stayed on the surface were normal and but people lived underneath the ground and they evolved differently and they became like these like grayish uh creatures who can like swim through the ground like really so that's kind of like so if you've seen that and you know what I'm referencing, that's what these troglodyte like things remind me of. They're just not as intelligent as those because those were humans who evolved into some underground type thing. But the skin, the muscles, the kind of ape likeness that that they're presented as very similar to those people things in uh, the Time Machine. So Din defeats them, has to he gets beat up a little bit, um, but he defeats them, and was kind of curious because I was like, I don't he just seemed to be slipping like it wasn't granted like no one's ever flawless when they fight, but like it's dangerous. There's potential danger, so you would think he'd be on high alert, but you know he didn't look that crisp during this fight. So after this fight, they decide to descend down further into the city. So Mando jumps off a cliff. Um, Grogu's in his floating orb, and they go and he jetpacks, down propulsion to break the fall. Grogu's floating down, and they continue to explore this area. As they continue to explore, um, they get attacked by this massive uh, robot bug. That's like it's the best way to describe it. It's like a cross between a robot spider scorpion type thing. It's got this like red eye. It's like this one eye, so it's like it's a robot. Okay, so like you know how General Grievous is like General Grievous is organic but mostly robot. That's exactly what this thing is like. It's got like an organic eye, but the rest is all mechanical. Um, so, however this thing came to be could be a very interesting story, but I doubt we'll ever get it. But this thing captures Mando and pretty much puts him like on a spit and starts roasting him. Um, Grogu attempts to sneak up and try to see if he could free Mando, but he makes some noise, kind of alerting the thing to his presence. And Mando's like, "Go get Bo-Katan." So Grogu gets into his egg and flies, floats away really fast. He goes back up, and as he's almost out of the initial cave that they went to, another troglodyte thing shows up, and Grogu looks really scared. And then we get robbed. We get robbed because there's a cutaway to the outside of the cave, and then we see the troglodyte flying backwards out, and we see Grogu floating out with his hand like this in the orb, the floating orb, and obviously we put two and two together. He force pushed the troglodyte out of the cave. Um, I just kind of feel robbed at that. I would have loved to see a look of fear on Grogu's face that turns into determination, and then he force pushes. Um, like I would have rather the focus on Grogu than the focus on the result of Grogu did, because that would show more development of on Grogu, because we all know he's going to force push him out. Like we know that's coming, so I don't need to see the result of the push. I need the development from fear to determination that I'm going to save my dad, and this thing is not going to be in my way. Um, so Grogu is able to get back to the ship just in time. He's able to take off with a little static from the troglodytes and flies off back to the Mandalorian moon where Bo-Katan has her castle. The ship lands. Bo-Katan's ticked off because she's like, I told this fool to stop bothering me. I'm going to go tell him off. Um, she starts talking while the cockpit's still closed. So, like, even if Mando was in the cockpit, ain't no way he heard that. And, like, I can't stand when shows do that. But anyway, there's no way he could have heard that. So she realizes it's just Grogu. And she's like, all right, we're going to go find him. She takes her own ship, leaves Mando's starfighter there at her castle. She takes her own ship and Grogu to back to Mandalore to help him, to help Grogu rescue Mando. And as they arrive back to Mandalore, again the troglodytes they attack. This time, this time they attack Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan pretty easily dispatches the troglodytes much better than Din Djarin did. I don't know if this is supposed to show that Bo-Katan is better combatant, a better fighter, um, but she like really pretty easily dispatched these guys. Um, she then again floats down with Grogu. They end up finding the scorpion spider robot creature. She fights it. She goes over to Mando. As she's fighting, and actually she saw Mando's weapons that were taken from him. One of them being the darksaber. Um, she uses it. She stops the bug thing, which, and we had seen go from this bigger spider scorpion shell to a smaller one. So she fought the smaller one, defeated it, and she goes over to help Mando. And as she's talking to Mando, she's trying to get him to respond. We see the creature come out of the smaller um, body was in and creepy crawl away. And then finally Mando responds to Bo-Katan by saying, behind you, and it's back inside the much larger scorpion spider body thing, which Bo-Katan has to fight that. And again, really dispatches it significantly easily. She uses the dark blade and pretty much chops its legs and kills it. And then its light goes out. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. But like she trashed this thing, and Din Djarin, it trashed him. Like I just felt that they nerfed Mando in this episode. I'm not. I love Katie Sackhoff. I think I don't know a ton about the Bo-Katan character, but I like what I've seen in this live action version. I think it's great that she can scrap, and she's a Mandalorian. Like every Mandalorian can scrap. Like it's an expectation. I just felt that Mando got nerfed in this episode. I really do. So the way I take this episode is that now that Bo-Katan has saved Mando and recovered the dark blade because it was taken from him, he defeated Gideon. Mando did, Din Djarin did. He defeated Midian, so Gideon, not Midian. He defeated Gideon, so that's how he got the dark saber. So this creature defeated Din. She picked it up and defeated the creature. So now I guess the dark blade is Bo-Katan's now. That's what I'm getting from this. I don't know for sure. But I just get the feeling that this episode was more made to establish Bo-Katan as a top level fighter and worthy of the dark blade, and worthy to lead the Mandalorians. And in doing so, nerfed Din a bit. I think you could have done that without nerfing Din, but that's just me. Some other things that happened in this episode, we got a little bit more backstory on the Katan family as they're traveling and going through the ruins of Mandalore. We've got Bo-Katan kind of monologuing to Grogu. She's like, "Hey, did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian?" After, I guess he looked surprised after she beat the troglodytes things. I think she named them too. And I'm not going to say what I think she said because it sounded like a biblical name for for the Christians and the Jews or the Muslims who have read like the Old Testament. Like it sounds like, I'm going to say it. It sounds like she said Amalekites. And I know she didn't say Amalekites, but it sounds like Amalekites. Amalekites in the Bible, they are real people. Even if you don't believe the Bible, the Amalekites were real people. Like it's in history, you can look it up. The Amalekites were real people. I know she didn't say Amalekites, but it rhymes with Amalekites or Amalekites or something like that. Okay, she called them something to that effect. And after fighting them, she reveals a bit more about herself and her royal family, the Kreese family. And she gets some exposition as they travel through. So if you get to learn a little bit more about Bo-Katan, if you were not a hardcore Star Wars fan who was already well versed in the history of Bo-Katan. Again, this episode, again, 4 out of 5. I think it's better than the first episode because obviously it took us forward. It was more episodic. The action was good. It was a little dark visually, but you're in caves. There's only so much you can do. It wasn't Game of Thrones dark, but some spots it was close. It established a little bit suspense with the troglodytes, coming out of nowhere. But again, there's a part where Din did not see them coming or have an idea that they were close as they were going. And granted, I don't think Din had ever been to Mandalore, where obviously Bo-Katan grew up there. So, like, as they were going through one cave trying to recover him, Bo-Katan looked up at the ceiling, saw like a weak point or a part that looked like maybe it was sagging. She shoots it with her blasters, and then the troglodytes fall out, and more troglodytes fall out. She starts fighting them. So just little things establishing that Bo-Katan is on a different level than Din is. And maybe that's just his ignorance to Mandalore itself, even though it should be completely new. It should be very different from anybody that was there before because of it was laid waste to. But that's just more establishing of Bo-Katan as, royalty, someone worthy of leading her people, their people. They tried, if you're a jump scare person, there were some jump scares there, but I almost forgot. So after, and this is more to the nerfing, and I think I blocked this out because I felt with the nerfing. So after rescuing him from this getting spit roasted, she's like, let's go. Din's like, no, I can't go. I gotta go, and I gotta go down to the mines. And Bo-Katan's like, kind of like eye rolls and shrug, and sighs, but she's like, okay, I'll take you there because you're never gonna find them on your own. So she guides him to where the mines are. And she like did she, and I think also to put this in context, and I think that the organic creature monster thing was draining Din's blood. I think that's there was some tube attached. You saw like they focused on the tube, so I'm assuming his blood was being drained, so he's weak. So but he doesn't want to take and rest or eat or drink anything. Like he wants to keep pushing on. So they go to the mines, pretty much free of any danger. They get to the mines. Then takes off his cape, puts his weapons down. I guess that's all you need to take off before bathing. I guess because you can't take the helmet off. So Din walks down these steps into the water, and then he just disappears. Falls into the water, disappears. Bo-Katan panics, runs in, dives in after him, turns on her jetpack booster, and she's just going through the water looking for him with her very small, helmet flashlight. Somehow she finds him, at the bottom of this thing. She's, jetpacking with him up, and as she's jetpacking up, she sees this massive creature, and she sees this massive eyeball. It tries to eat them as she flies out, but she saves them. And again, kind of feels like Din is nerfed a little bit, but that at least made sense because he was having his blood drained. He was clearly weak. He didn't take time to rest. He didn't take time to eat. He didn't take time to drink anything to replenish his strength. So that made sense that he either fell or, creature pulled him under. I mean, if the creature pulled him under, I don't know why I didn't try to eat him. So either the creature pulled him down or he fell. But what have you, Bo-Katan saved Din not once but twice. On the same day. So this episode was really establishing of Bo-Katan and what they're going to do, the direction where they're pointing with her as this show goes on. So again, 4 out of 5 is my rating. And again, I enjoyed the episode. Definitely not perfect, but it wasn't bad at all, and it keeps us moving forward. And really didn't, even though the actions that Mando was taking were for his, redemption in the eyes of the Children of the Watch arc. The episode really wasn't focused on that. It was more focused on Bo-Katan, which is a little fresh, a little fresh direction, and I love seeing Kitty Sackhoff on screen. So, that's Starbucks doing her thing. So those are my ratings. Again, 3 out of 5 for episode 1, 4 out of 5 for episode 2. This episode is actually going to drop on Wednesday, March the 15th. So this episode will drop the day of episode 3. So I'd love to hear what you think of this episode, these 2 episodes, I should say, episodes 1 and 2 of season 3. I'd like to know what you thought about this episode of the original Jeek Podcast, which we could not do. I, RockinMrMagic, cannot do. My co-host, Unique DNA, we can't do without you, Jeeks, who continue to support us. I just want to thank you for every listen, every rating, every review that you leave of our show on your podcasting app of choice. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Castbox, and more. And if you can't find us, let us know at geeknation@gmail.com or message us on Facebook at geeknation. And until next time, peace.
Ready to make an entrance, so backward cut. Come on, clap for me.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, slow down. Whoa, speed up.
This is DJ What, and you're listening to the original Jeek Podcast.